What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So, a little different of an intro. Yeah, I was cooking tacos. It was actually sausage, egg, and cheese tacos is what I made. If you're from Texas, you understand breakfast tacos are a staple here. It's just something you have to do. And I haven't had breakfast tacos in forever. It's not as authentic as what it is in South Texas, but you know what? I've got a big day planned. So, as you can probably see behind me, there is a four-wheeler, and you probably see the ramps and the gate, maybe everything else. But I'm going out to get the trap finalized, set up, and start trapping finally. I didn't really plan on not being able to trap for those 2.5 months. You know, it's one of those things you don't plan for, but you just kind of have to deal with. I have access to this property and I don't lease it. He simply let me go out to help him with a problem. So, got to be grateful for what you have, and I am. So, anyway, I have the four-wheeler, 340 pounds of deer corn, and all of my tools and the gate loaded down as I showed you. So, I'm geared up for a full day of getting set up, filming, and taking you through the trap and finalizing this. So, I'm excited to get out and go get this done finally. I will be getting the camera set up tomorrow morning. The reason why I'm waiting to set up the camera is because I want to do it when my mind is fresh in the morning, so that way I can think through the best way, the best settings, the best everything else. It's not a real far drive, so going out a second time is not a big deal. I'm doing it so I can focus on the trap itself, and then I'll focus on the final component tomorrow. Now I'm having to look at the configuration of the trap and also the electronics, everything else, which I know how they all work, of course, but you still have to adapt to the scenario once it gets into the field. So hyperlapse the setup of the actual trap, and then I will walk you through the final setup of the drop gate. Alright, so we kind of cut the hyperlapse a little short because I did want to focus on getting everything secured and framed. Obviously, you can see it is secured. So, a couple of the little added details. Right here at the gate, there are 2 U-bolts there and there, and then there are 2 more on this post as well. The other person that is here with me is my buddy Randall. You've seen him a few times before. Really, the most recently was in the video where we took the 2 pigs that one night. But he's gonna kind of be tagging along and helping out with the trapping. But all of this is literally the same panels that I had before, same T-post that I had before. We literally took our time, thought through it, and put it together. So now the trap is set. I didn't even move the feeder, didn't even have to touch it. So now I'm fixing to start the wiring and getting the mechanics of the trap itself together to make sure that the automation works. All right, so I wanted to do one more walkthrough before I finish up for the day. As you can see, we do have everything mounted. Yeah, it's crooked. It's one of those, I got it set where it needs to be. I will come back and adjust accordingly tomorrow. You can see we do have this tied. It's not final just because didn't have the socket to fit that. I think it's a 15 or a 14 millimeter, so I'll have to come back with that and make sure we have all that set. The feeder is full. Went ahead and threw in, I think, 120 pounds of corn within it. And this is the trap and what it will be now. So the great thing with these materials I've had since probably one of my earliest videos 2 years ago, where we all came out and there were probably 4 or 5 pigs in the trap. We all took a turn. We each left with a pig and left with some meat. It was a good result, and you know, it was great that our efforts had paid off. Now it's grown to, I want to automate and be able to do this from my house, because the great thing with it is that now I can sit in the comfort of my home and let this trap do the work. I don't have to disturb the land, don't have to come put my scent out here all the time, which allows it to be a little bit more natural. So if you're wondering why the gate is positioned where it is, that is because there are 3 or 4 natural trails through here. So you can kind of see where this one has been used before. It's not probably a current one. I don't see a lot of movement through it. At least it doesn't look like that. There's another with a pass through here, and here's another. So just within that section, there's 3 or 4 where they're coming through. And then I just kind of did my last little ride around to make sure I didn't forget anything. And I didn't notice this before, but there's another clearing here, and you can see this is where he has driven through with the tractor. This is kind of his pass through to come through whenever he's mowing. So there's plenty of sections to come through. You can see these back 2 sections here funnel all the way up this way. So naturally, if they're following the scent, they're going to walk to the trap. And that's why the gate's facing where it is. They're either going to funnel back through there and come up one of these trails, or they're going to come up straight through here and go directly to the door, rather than them having to go completely around. So once we have the electronics hooked up and going, they'll funnel through. We'll have the gate high enough to where the bottom of it should be a minimum of, I'm going to say 36 to probably 42 inches, just because if you do have a huge boar coming in, you don't want anything to touch it. You don't want it to feel unnatural. I wanted to make this feel natural to the game coming in. And the reason I say game is because you can get more than just pigs coming in your trap. I've seen deer, I've seen coons, I've seen everything. And as needed, I will come out and eradicate coons or whatever else is coming in, just because the cost of corn has gotten a little higher than what it normally is. I usually pay about $6.99 a bag, and that's for a 50-pound bag. I paid $6.76 for a 40-pound bag, so that's 10 pounds less and 20 cents less. So I'm not getting as much for my money. I would prefer to use the 50-pound bags, The only place around that had 50-pound bags was $9.75 a bag, and I'm sorry, I'm just not going to pay $10 for a bag of corn. A little high for me. The whole purpose of today was to focus on the trap itself. Then tomorrow is going to be a fresh start, and I can come back and focus on the electronics, making sure everything's wired correctly and I have all of the equipment I need. So this is the section of the property that does not see a lot of use. Only reason being is because it is closer to the road. I'm going to say we're probably 400 yards from the road, probably less. I'm just estimating. I don't know an exact number, but this huge tree really looks like it could be utilized for a feeder to hang from, and this could be a great setup for being able to hunt. I'm kind of looking at trying to get the most out of the property that I can. You know, I want to have an additional place to hunt. If I have an additional place from where I'm trapping, and yeah, it's not that far, but the thought behind it is that with the additional place to hunt, I can come set somewhere closer to where my truck is, maybe further back, and be able to take a shot. Or even over here in this clearing over there, I can have something set up. I could even move the platform over to there and be able to set out and have some time out in the field. And that's kind of the idea. So I'm rethinking how I want to utilize the property. I'm gonna have roughly 6 months, 8 months, really depending on how this next deer season goes for the property owner. Once we start getting close to about mid-August, he'll ask me to start kind of laying off, just because he's gonna start feeding. He wants deer to come in. He doesn't want the property disturbed. So completely understandable. And that's just kind of one of those things that you're gonna run into whenever you are working with property owners. You have to play by their rules. I don't try to give him any grief at all. I don't argue over anything. He's allowing me out here for nothing, and you know, that's huge to have properties that you don't have to lease. So right here you can see this used to be a game trail. I'm not real sure if it's still used or not. It doesn't look like it, but that's kind of the idea that I was getting. I was like, you know, I should probably run the property a little bit and just see what and where all the trails are. I did this a little bit last year, and I actually did a video over a tour of the property, but this is a section that we didn't really explore much because he was showing me where he hunts and where he's been successful. So here's another section that looks like it's been a game trail used for quite some time. Don't know how fresh it is, but you can see, especially here, right there, and back through here, you can tell there's different game coming through here. So there's probably a lot more to this property and how it can be utilized than what I even have realized so far. So you can tell here, this is another trail that's used. It probably hadn't been used in some time, but you know, you never know where they're going to come from, and it looks like they have been just passing through for years. So this could have been as fresh as last year, or it could have been as old as 2 or 3 years ago. I don't know. But I can tell you this, there's enough acreage and woods here that they can virtually pass through undetected, and that's what really attracted me to the property here. So anyways, I'm gonna get four-wheeler loaded up and we're gonna call it a day. Good morning, everybody. This is day 2 of the hog trap setup. This morning I'm gonna be working on the automation, making sure the electronics are hooked up. Everything is going to be solar powered, so I've got to make sure the wiring's right. I've got to make sure that we've got all the connections correct and that this is going to be configured and working the way I need it to. So the lighting right here is a little bad because this is a shaded area, but I'm going to be working on the components, making sure that everything's functional, getting this guy tied off like I mentioned yesterday. And then once it's all set, I'm actually going to test it a few times and make sure everything's functional.
So I'll be hyperlapsing a majority of the work, and then I'll walk you through everything as I finish.
Alright, so as y'all can see, I have a giant mess, but all the electrical's hooked up. I'm actually fixing to put everything together and get it all squared away, make sure everything is in the box and protected and taken care of. I don't want to go inside the trap, but as you can see, I ended up having to move the electrical box over to this side because what was happening is that the wire and everything was catching the gate. Since then, I've worked through it, I've made some adjustments. It works. That is a DIY automated hog trap. Well, there it is, an automated pig trap. Did a little research, found the components, pieced it together myself. Now, there was a little bit of a delay on actually getting out and getting it set up, but that was just because the landowner did not want anybody on the property at the time, and later allowed me to start coming out and trapping again. So, like I mentioned earlier, you have to just be thankful for what you get. You know, a lot of people pay good money to go lease property, to go do a lot of stuff like this, and I don't. So, I'm thankful for what I have, and I'm thankful that he allows me to come out and help him with this issue, and yeah, ultimately it leads to more content and it allows me to get out and hunt more too. Over the next few weeks, I'm probably going to start seeing what kinks this trap might have and just see some of the things that might have to work through as well if this is something you've decided to set up too. I'll kind of report back and just do a little update video, but for now, the camera's set. I actually do have the trap door set, and see if anything starts coming in. It would be great to get on some pigs in the next week or so, but I don't know. I haven't had my camera out here since October, so it's been a while. I haven't really been watching what's moving through the property, so should start to see things pretty soon. I have the feeder set to go off at 6 a.m. and then again at 7:45 p.m. Those are going to be ideal times since it's very cool in the morning, and it will cool off drastically by 8 p.m. in the evening too. It's not that it's too hot, but you have some days in Texas where it's going to be 50 is your high right now, and then there's other days like today where the high is 76. So those are just ideal times, and they should work well. I'll adjust as needed, but nothing is set in stone yet, so I'm not quite sure how all of it's going to work out, but we'll kind of play with it and adapt and see what I might need to do over the next few weeks. But that's all I have for you this week, and I'll catch you on next week's episode.